that's affected it. I'd love to hear from people about that, because that's a lot of what has informed the work that we've done for this document. You can give us it's better, it's worse. It doesn't have to be a soliloquy or anything like that as far as what your experience has been. Yes, and I will share this document. Thank you. Everybody should have access as long as you're signed into ASU.
And Kasey, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, just looking to hear from people what their experience has been with work-life balance, how you feel like it's been affected by the pandemic and the shift to remote work. Because like I said, that's really what was kind of the catalyst for us creating this document and starting this conversation. I miss the walk breaks too, Farnoosh. Yeah, Kenneth, I think you're right. It's you do have to be more intentional about just stepping away. Yep, I was all too happy to give up my commute. I drive about 40 to 45 minutes to be here. The blueberry basil lemonade at Salad and Go is a problem, Edwin. Spent a lot of money on that lately, but we've got one close to USB now. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Lane, feel free to interrupt when you think we should get started officially.
I think we've got 120 folks, 121 now.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, right. So I've started the recording.
Okay,
and
cool.
I just want to encourage everyone I want to preface this with start thinking, while we're going through this, start thinking about helping Kasey and Jean by providing your thoughts when we get into it on the strengths and the opportunities, the aspirations and the results of this particular topic. So it sounds like this is everybody's third time going through this, so we should be pros at this now.
Yeah.
Take it away, Kasey and Jean.
All right. So yeah, we'll hit the ground running. My name is Kasey Kautenburger. I'm a developer with the ERP integration team in UTO. And Jean is my co-host. You want to introduce yourself real quick, Jean, and then I'll talk about the document?
Sure thing. Jean Squires, Technology Engagement Advisor with the UTO, and happy to be with you all today.
All right. So thank you. As I was saying, this document was really kind of started back in mid-February. There was a handful of us in the UTO that had been hearing from a lot of people that their work-life balance had been adversely affected by the pandemic. And we got involved with our Culture Weavers group and had a whole, one of our meetings that I think we'd set aside 15 or 20 minutes to talk about it. And there was just so much conversation that we spent the whole hour talking about it. And so from that, we took a lot of notes about people's experiences and different ideas and things that they had for, maintaining and setting that work-life balance. And we've really been refining this document since then. So as you can see, it's version 0.9. It's not anything official yet, but we've had it in front of some of our UTO leadership and they've given us some feedback, and we're looking to get some more from all of you today. And with the goal of eventually, using this to help people with their balance. So that's where we're at right now. Jean and I are just going to kind of skim the document just to talk about what's in here. I'm going to put the link in the chat one more time, just so if you want to revisit a part on your own, you can do that. But we're just going to kind of skim it so we all kind of know what's in here and what's going on. So Jean, you want to take it away with the intro here?
Sure, yes.
And I'll just keep sharing to keep it easy.
Yeah, that's great. I don't want to just read the document to you guys. I just want to maybe highlight a couple of sentences here and there to get us a little comfortable with what the goal of the document is, and then how we can do the SOAR analysis. So the introduction is that UTO is firm in our commitment to supporting work-life balance. So this is specifically a document that has been created within the UTO, but once this is all ready to fly, our hope, I think, is that it would ripple across ASU as a whole, and something that we can all work for or work towards and together. I heard something earlier in the mindfulness breakout, and one of the hosts there said that we don't believe in work-life balance. We believe that it's integration. And that was really, really sobering to me for a minute. So maybe, there's just a lot of different ways to look at this and how important it is to either find the balance or integrate whatever words you are more comfortable with, a more positive experience or balance. So the UTO is firm in our commitment to supporting work-life balance. To encourage this toolkit has been created to articulate the work-life balance and what it means to us, how we can manifest it, and methods to help reinforce it. Describing work-life balance, at its core, work-life balance is the act of dividing one's time between work activities and personal activities. One of the words that really came out of our meeting with leadership was this equilibrium. Is it possible to find this equilibrium? And this document will hopefully help us get there. Another thing that came about is the leadership principles. The leadership principles within the UTO, there's 7 of them: agile first, resourceful and transformational, talent alignment, trust in our teams, authentic partnerships, curiosity and creativity, and the culture of collaboration. If we can find a way to tie this document back to those leadership principles, then, I mean, wow, I just think there's just so much opportunity to create this balance and do it together and with the support of leadership. And to you, Kasey.
Yeah, so what we got and what we're trying to do here is basically we kept hearing and saying that we value work-life balance, but we're really trying to define what it means and be a little bit more explicit in our commitment to it and what that means for people. So the last couple sections here are really just best practices that we've gathered. It's the biggest difficulty that we've had in creating this document is that in an organization the size of the UTO and ASU, we have myriad different roles, people doing all different kinds of work, all different kinds of schedules. And so it's been really difficult to, find things that apply to everyone because there really aren't a lot of them. There's some basics, but not a ton. And so this is kind of a pick and choose section. What we took some things that we heard from people that they do that work well, and some other things that we'd kind of like to see put into practice. And I recently moved this one all the way to the top because this is something that I just hear over and over, is that people just get their calendars booked over willy-nilly with little to no respect for what's going on or what they've got going on. Some of the other bigger ones are blocking off time to get your focus work done. We've got some tips for if you're working from home, create a specific space for work if you can. Change your attire to help you kind of get in that mindset and feel like you're not at work, but in that mode. And then there's definitely a kind of assumed necessity to answer things as quickly as possible. And this was something that I vividly remember coming from our original conversation. Somebody said for the most part, an answer isn't necessary immediately. We're not working in a hospital. A lot of these things can wait. So, we've got some tips to help people with that. And a lot of it's about setting expectations and having conversations, so communicate your work schedule to others. Not everybody's is the same. Like I said before, we have so many different people and so many different roles that no one's is the same, and again, setting some expectations, how long it might take to complete a particular task, what the amount of the ask is, for the work that you're being given. And then, emergencies occur. There's going to be times where you will have to work a little bit extra. But, if that's something that becomes the norm, then we need to have some other conversations and hopefully figure some things out. So that's kind of the general section for everybody. And then, like I said, this is about conversations and expectations. And so, a lot of those expectations are set by our leaders, and, they set the standard, and it's important for them to, for us to remember that, that people want to be good employees and they want to please people. And if you send them a message at 8 o'clock at night, they might feel obligated to respond. And that's not always the case. So we've got a number of different things here. I don't want to go into too much more detail. I think I will leave it at that, Lane, and let you take over and just say that we created this, for the reasons I said, and because we want this to be a place that people choose to continue to work, a place that they, recommend to their friends and, former colleagues and things like that and say, come work here.
Great. And thank you. This is a prime example of how SOAR can really be used to help the authors of this document represent their audience, which is all of us, in how we would like to manage our work-life balance. So I invite everybody to think about what we've done for the first few sessions, and think about the strengths and the opportunities and the aspirations and results. And when you're framing your thoughts around this, think about the document that you've just read. What are some of the strengths of the document right now? What do you like about it? What are some of the opportunities? Where are some areas of improvement? What would you like to see added? And we'll talk about that. Jean and I are both going to do our best to capture what you're putting either into chat or what you're sharing. You can feel free to unmute yourself, and we'll go through each one individually, each section, but it doesn't mean that you can't say, oh, I just thought of a strength when we're way down on aspirations, and add that to the chat. So let's start. What are some of the strengths that you've seen with what's already created in this document?
Do you want to share that, Lane, as you're putting them in there?
I certainly can. Actually, Jean, do you have it up? Sorry, I have it up on a different computer. So,
Sorry, Blaine, did you just ask me that? I stepped away for 2 seconds.
do you happen to have the SOAR analysis that I shared with you up on your computer?
I do.
Could you share that with the Jean, please?
Absolutely.
And Rob, that is a great strength. Rob identified that it's great to see. The strength number one is that this document itself even exists. So that you're right. That is the first step, right? Jessica, were you indicating that inclusivity was a strength, or was that from previous?
Sorry. Yes, inclusivity I was indicating as a strength, because my understanding is you guys are trying to be as inclusive of everybody's varying schedules and roles and responsibilities as possible in one document.
Wonderful. And then
I
Ursula.
think it's really timely, given where everybody's struggling with communication strategies across teams. I was recently in a team meeting where we were talking about, trying to level set on communication strategies in micro teams or, breakout teams in our larger, regular groups.
Great, awesome. And Karen mentions that bringing attention to the greater audience about the importance of work-life balance. And wow, Corey's doing us a solid by immediately identifying an opportunity, which you can continue to leave that screen up if you like, Jean. Again, there's no set prescriptive way to do this, but if you think of opportunities or even results and how we can quantify things, feel free to share that.
And I'll just chime in and respond to what Liz just posted, and that's that I think that this document is really just the beginning. I think there's a lot of people that need that that initial permission to set those boundaries, to say those things. And I hope that this can give a lot of those people that permission that they're looking for.
And I just want to shout out Mary's idea of putting the link for this Google slide in the chat, so that we can all, because that way it would save some time and let everybody's ideas be heard.
Love it. Thank you.
I am not opposed to that, and I think it's currently set to.
I just put it in there, but I don't know if it's available for everyone.
Let me change the settings.
Okay.
And you've shared it?
Yeah, the link is in the chat.
Fabulous. You are welcome. folks to join in.
That was a great idea. I thought about doing it, but I wasn't sure. I don't know. So thank you.
Yeah, it's questionable, right? There's 134 of us. Sometimes when we get 100 plus folks in the same document, it can get a little kludgy, but it also presents the opportunity for folks to maybe share things without us having to go through the chat and pseudo anonymously. So as you think about opportunities, you can take some of those opportunities and don't just think about things that are necessarily wrong. In a SWOT analysis, those would be perhaps weaknesses and threats. But think about those weaknesses and threats instead of what's wrong, but also think about presenting an opportunity as what can we do better? Instead of here's the problem, the opportunity is to implement this solution. And as you're thinking about aspirations, what are our dreams? What are the things that we would really, really love to see as a result of this? I think that I'll put in there that one of the aspirations is a work-life balance toolkit, which I think that this document is the start of that. But maybe this evolves into something like a whole website or a whole recorded training sessions. Don't think just small. Think about what are the awesome aspirations that we might not achieve in this quarter or the next fiscal half, but that we could put as a high water target. And then finally, I invite you. I see some people are already doing it, and they're putting in some potentials for what are some of the results. And those results, think about them in two different ways. Think about results not only as what a lot of us IT people like is quantitative results, right? Results have to be metrics and numbers, but think about the qualitative results as well. One of the desired results might just be a higher level of engagement from our team members or from ourselves because and that could be measurable, it could be quantifiable, but it's also qualifiable by each individual. And while you're adding to this, maybe Jean and I will just take a look and say, hey, what did you mean when you said this? I think you're all doing a stellar job of putting stuff in here that is actually pretty self-explanatory. And Tara had a great example of a qualitative and quantitative survey about the current status of this policy with opportunities for improvement. So that's like taking this session almost and expanding it to a much wider audience. So that is.
I have a quick question. Would there be an opportunity, something that we didn't mention in one of the previous sessions, but is there an actual Slack channel for this number of folks so that this conversation could potentially continue beyond the session?
Kasey and Jean, I think you already have something like that, right?
We have a channel for our teamlet with Culture Weavers, but nothing that's specific to this work. It's something we could create, though.
And here's a great plug. Everyone is invited to be a participant in Culture Weavers and to participate on not only things like this, but all kinds of other projects that actually, a lot of them come right out of the discussions that are had in Culture Weavers. But Kasey and Jean, if we do spin up a larger channel, it doesn't hurt anything. Very few people typically say, add me to more Slack channels. But if the option is there, it would be great to share through the Culture Weavers channel. And I want to talk about Vanuta's comment. And I love the way you put it, gentle reminders in team meeting discussion. I've had that done to me, and I appreciated it. Things like, hey, this meeting that you scheduled goes all the way up to the hour. Could it have been done in 50 minutes? Gentle reminders are really simple, and they can even sometimes be very passive, such as sharing examples of how you're managing your own work-life balance and suggesting that others could choose to follow that or not, rather than being direct with somebody to say, Tara, I really need you to do it this way. Instead, I could say, Tara, here's how I do it. If that works for you, that might be great.
I love those examples. Those are great.
I see all of these slides filling out great. One of the area I think that maybe we could focus on, since we've got a little bit of time, our aspirations, and I'm going to try to pull some from the chat because I've seen a couple in the chat here. And I think one of the aspirations that I liked was it was a result, but I think it could be an aspiration as well. David Davis put in there results, new ideas for cool hobbies and activities to engage in outside of work. And I think an aspiration could be for us to expand the scope of work-life balance to not just our work behaviors.
All right, we have the channel coming here in just a minute. I just created it, and Joe is going to share it with all of the ASU Slack spaces. That's an awesome idea. Thank you, Tara.
So as we get closer to, we've got 10 minutes left in our session here, and I think that we're going to potentially reach the point of uncomfortable silence as people are thinking about this and maybe not wanting to chat verbally. I want to also invite you to reach out to Jean or to Kasey. If you think of anything that you wanted to share it, but you didn't really want to share it in a group of 140 folks. B, you're done with this session, or it came up in another meeting and you're like, oh my gosh, this would be incredible to help out with the work-life balance. Thinking about this doesn't end in 11 minutes. Thinking about this for all of us continues as we're going through our transition for several folks being at home, fully at home, to being on campus part or full time. So as things come to you, feel free to reach out and share that information. Jean and Kasey are currently the maintainers of this document and this process, but they aren't certainly the sole authors. They are gathering information and putting it in here. So I invite you to continue to reach out to them.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that, Lane. Anybody, if you've got any ideas or you want to get involved, please feel free to Slack us directly. I just put the name of the channel in the chat, and it should be available on every ASU workspace. So feel free to join that and stay involved. Oh, thanks, Joe.
This is amazing. Look at Lane. You just mentioned, can we put in a few more aspirations and like.
And we're out of space on the slide. We're gonna have to change our font size. I love that.
No.
What a great problem to have.
This is amazing. Thank you everyone for contributing.
So are there any other things that people want to dialogue about while we've got a little more than 5 minutes left in our session here? Was there anything that you read in the document that you said, that's a head scratcher for me, or something you didn't read in the document that said, wow, that's a real opportunity? And if nobody says anything, I'll just pick something.
One of the opportunities that I found, I've been at ASU for several years now. I've heard a lot of folks have a difficulty with getting emails late into the night and then not feeling like they had the ability to pause. So just having heard that and not seen a resolution come along, I think that that's a really big opportunity to consider, and I'm really excited to see it there because I know it's top of mind for lots of folks.
Yeah, that is a big one.
You're saying that people receive email late into the night, Tara?
Yeah. So, if we say that our principles are to have a work-life balance, and then we've got an executive or a leader or somebody who's working until 10 o'clock at night and sending emails, then the indicator is that you think you need to respond back. So then that's that's actually something. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's actually something that we've addressed in the document. That very thing that people sending emails late at night or on the weekends can set that expectation or make people think that is the expectation. And we, I don't think we want to tell people you can't work at night if you want to, but I think that we can empower people to say, I'm going to shut my email off, 5 o'clock, I'm done, take the app off my phone, shut my notifications off. If it's an emergency, there'll be some other way to get a hold of me. But I think a lot of that is, setting that expectation from leadership, and then people setting the boundary and saying, I'm off work. I'm not going to check my email.
And that's to have that conversation, right?
Yeah. And I say that, and it's a lot easier said than done. Right. And that's kind of what I was talking about with the document, is hoping to empower people to have those conversations. So was somebody else going to speak up?
Oh,
I was
yeah.
going to agree with you, Kasey. Go ahead, Amy.
Oh, I have a suggestion for some folks. if you're
Please.
like me and you're a night owl and you have a little one that you're entertaining throughout the day, one thing that I've used a lot is to schedule my emails to go out during working hours. So I may be writing an email at midnight, but it's not sending out until 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning, so that it reaches somebody's inbox and they don't expect to have to respond to it. So
Right, send out is a big winner there. I will admit to sometimes being one of those really annoying folks who happens to be working late, and I send a Slack to somebody who is offline just because I don't want to forget about it. And then 5 minutes later, I get a response from them, and I go, curses, I didn't want to at 7:30 send Gene a message to say, hey, what are we doing with that meeting on Friday? I wanted to do it at 8 o'clock the next day. So it's changing some of our own behaviors too. While we might be comfortable with our work-life balance, especially those of us in support and leadership positions, we have to be comfortable with supporting other people's work-life balances. And Slack is the one that's really a kick in the shins, right? Because it's so easy to collaborate and get a lot of stuff done on Slack. But as I've seen mentioned before, there's such a sense of urgency around a Slack message, right? How many of you see an email and go, I can wait until 3 o'clock to respond to that after I'm out of Empower? But a Slack message comes in, and depending upon the sender of that, you're like, I have to totally multitask and divert my attention to responding that within the next 5 minutes. It is challenging. All I will do is acknowledge the challenge that exists on balancing that particular. That's not even a work-life thing. That could be literally at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the feeling of urgency around a message when Slack pops up.
A little red bubble. It just sucks you right in.
I'm a night owl too, but what I've been doing more of is I'll precede my Slack message with for tomorrow.
That's a good one, Ruby.
Uppercase letters, and then I'll type, and I do the same with email too, like, for Monday or for Tuesday or whatever it is.
Right, and I try to identify the differences in when I'm communicating with my team, not just during off hours, the difference between important and urgent, right? This is an important thing we need to discuss, but it's not urgent that you respond to me in the next 2 hours. Or this is urgent. We have a lot of folks who are expecting this in the next X period of time. And the onus is on us, the askers, to set expectations around turnaround. That's another great use Antonio just brought up, is using Slack not just as a communication tool, but to put the notes in Slack and check it in the morning and send out the messages. You can compose drafts. I am finding that I'm a big fan of the reminder tool in Slack. I can't get to this right now, but I don't want to forget about it, and it's easy to do that in Slack. So right-click on it and say, remind me again in X period of time. And I think, we're gathering a lot of this information, and Kasey, maybe that's an aspiration for us, is to add best practices to our document too, or maybe not to our document, but maybe to another resource that we create.
Well, yeah, we have a bunch of best practices in there already, as I kind of skimmed it, for leaders and for non-leaders, both, to set those expectations and the boundaries and things like that. And, we're looking for any and all things to add to it. Open to suggestions there. What works best for you, what works best in a particular role.
Yep. All right, I think we're coming up on our last couple of minutes. They should be kicking us out of this breakout session, which was a great session. Thank you, Gene and Kasey, for the work that you've done to date and the opportunity to invite all of us to contribute. It's really appreciated. Any last thoughts before we go, Kasey or Gene, about the ask and the continued ask from our partners?
Not at this point. I really appreciate everyone coming here and sharing your experiences. I know that it's been a crazy year for everybody, longer than a year at this point. And I hope that we can take what we've learned from this and use it, not just as we're moving out of whatever this pandemic stage is, but, going forward, so that we can, have that good balance indefinitely. So thank you.
All right, well, thank you all. You can feel free to return to the main session by clicking on the breakout rooms or clicking on the Leave Room button in the lower right-hand corner. And I hope everybody has a great day.
Thanks, Lane.
Thanks.